Out of 12.2 million single-parent families in 2012, more than 80% were headed by single mothers. Today, 1 in 3 children, a total of 15 million, are being raised without a father. Of that group, nearly half live below the poverty line. My mother and father got married on February 14, 1987. Shortly after, they had my brother Nicholas and were on their way to becoming an all-American family. In 1990, the year I was born, my father became addicted to drugs and alcohol while working on Wall Street. My mother tried sending him to rehab after rehab, resulting in relapse after relapse. He would be clean for a few days or a few weeks or even a few months and then go AWOL for extended periods of time. By the time I was 4, he had drained my mother's bank account and savings and had sold numerous irreplaceable items such as my mother's Crystal Bunny collection. One night, he had even gone as far as to sell the tires off the car as well as mine and my brother's car seats to feed his addiction. As hard as it was for my mother, she did what was best for her family and kicked the love of her life out of her life. As devastating as this was, my mother kept on trekking. My mom, who looked out with a high-paying job on Wall Street shortly after high school, never went to college, so after being laid off in 1995, she had a difficult time finding a decent job. In the same year, a pipe had burst in our house while we were away on vacation and turned the majority of our home to mildew. We moved to my aunt's house in Pennsylvania for 2 years while my grandfather rebuilt our house. During this time, my mother lived at the house and worked in New York City and would visit us on the weekends without fail. Growing up in a higher-end suburb, my brothers and I were surrounded by families who had plenty of money. However, this was not the case for us. After being laid off again in 1999, my mother was once again unemployed. She managed to find a job at a dental office as a secretary, which hardly paid the bills. My mother never let us see her stress about finances, but instead tried to give us everything that we not only needed, but wanted. She managed to send us on expensive school trips, get us toys we absolutely had to have, and even took us on vacations, despite the fact she really couldn't afford to. She would wake up every day at 5 a.m. to do laundry and make lunches. She would get us ready for school, go to work, come home, make dinner, help us with our schoolwork, and put us to bed, and do it all over again the next day. She wanted us to have the best upbringing possible, and she wasn't going to let money stand in her way. When I was in 6th grade, I began walking a couple of the neighbors' dogs for spending money. By the time I reached 8th grade, this little hobby of mine turned into a full-fledged kennel business. We would have at least 5 dogs at the house on a regular basis, as well as numerous others to walk at their own homes. Almost all of the money made from these dogs went to my mother. When it came time for me to graduate high school in 2008, my mom took over the business and still runs it today. It is one of the main sources of income for her. To this day, it still amazes me how my mother was able to take on what seems like the world and never break a sweat. She managed to raise and inspire my brothers and I single-handedly. My mother showed us how we could achieve anything if we wanted it bad enough and work hard enough for it. I wouldn't trade my upbringing for a traditional one any day.